What if Naruto became Sasuke's greatest protector during the Chunin exams? Chapter 2. Hiruzen Sarutobi called for another meeting with his top shinobi in order to discuss the information brought by Hayate. The situation was no longer simply delicate, it was critical. Instead of a possible attack by a single ninja, even if that ninja was Orochimaru, the village now was forced to prepare for an attack by the combined forces of both the Sound and Sand villages, and that was a direct threat to Konoha's existence. Right now the scroll brought by Hayate lay opened across Hokage's desk, for everyone present to observe. A well-planned attack. They aim for a swift progress to the village center in order to cut our forces apart before we will be able to create a stable defense line. Shikaku studied the plan. It had both a map of the village, numerous details, and objective that meant to be captured. Basically it was the detailed scenario of the upcoming attack. Suggestions? Hiruzen asked. Our main advantage is that this whole plan is based around one principle, the element of surprise. Since now we know, we can exploit our advantage. Let them move in, assemble hidden counter-attack forces to cut them off and then wipe them out once we surround them. I will prepare the basic plan by the morning. Shikaku nodded. Agreed. For now we should act as if we are still unaware of the attack. But remain vigilant. Hiruzen spoke. Wait, won't they understand that we know everything, now that Baki is captured? They might suspect, but the Sand already began this very dangerous game and will not back out, too late for that. The third shook his head. I want all preparation needed for the battle made, but secretly, without drawing extra attention. All the ninjas we can call back from mission are to return without delay. All shinobi ranked Chunin and higher are to be informed. What about Genin? Kurenai asked. For now they should be kept in the dark. They are the center of attention right now. They will play their act the best of they will never know that the Chunin exams are no longer that important. Once the battle will begin they will help evacuate the civilians. This will free up more higher-ranked ninjas for direct combat. Junin instructors, I hope your Genin will comply with the orders. The Junin present voiced their confidence in their students, though most knew that some of the Genin had mindsets that didn't go well with something like subordination. Kakashi actually was more worried about Sasuke than about Naruto. The young Uchiha could be quite willing to engage enemy ninjas to test out the new abilities he acquired during harsh training with Kakashi. We will meet before the final stage of the exam to once more discuss the plan in detail. For now prepare. But before you leave, I want to know if there is any new information about this archer ninja. His motives are unknown and I don't like knowing that there is a ninja whose presence we can't properly analyze. Hiruzen turned to Inuzuka soon. I am sorry, Lord Hokage. I personally inspected the area where Hayate saw that archer, but nothing. He masked all traces of his presence and locating him in the village right now is impossible. The situation becomes more confusing. I personally can't understand his actions. Hiruzen pulled his pipe out of his mouth and sighed. I agree, his actions don't make any sense. First he tries to kill Uchiha Sasuke, then he saves Hayate and basically helps reveal the plot against the village. Asuma pointed out, I don't understand what he might be trying to achieve. Yes, this further complicates things. Kakashi agreed. Hard to make a decision without knowing his actual intentions. Information is critical right now. Hokage-sama, did you get any information on the strange weapons this ninja uses? Nothing substantial. Kenza did provide some interesting details, but nothing that we could use to at least narrow down the possibilities. As for the medical analysis, also nothing we could use. Hiruzen shook his head. The medical research team came out with nothing regarding the bone structure of the white arrow. All they said that they have never saw anything like it. Very well. Hiruzen leaned back in his armchair. We can't waste too much resources on the secondary matter. For now everyone should concentrate on preparing for battle. As for this archer, Detain on sight. Should he try to escape, use lethal force if necessary, but I'd prefer him captured alive. Anbu are to keep watch over Uchiha Sasuke. That is all we can do for now. Yes, Hokage-sama. The Chunin present said in unison, accepting the order. Sasuke wasn't thrilled that Kakashi had cut this day training session early since he was summoned by the Hokage. The Uchiha felt that he could keep going, despite his hands and feet feeling as if they were made of lead. But the progress was evident. Sasuke knew that he was getting stronger. He was moving forward, towards the goal of facing and ending him. Sasuke shook his head and rubbed his shoulder as he walked back to his apartment. It was already late and the streets were empty, if not counting the Anbu operative who was observing the last Uchiha, ready to jump in case of another attempt on his life. Sasuke already noticed that every time his thoughts trailed back to Itachi, the mark on his shoulder began throbbing, but now it never got beyond that. Kakashi sealed it up and then some seal master added his own touch. Kakashi never said who it was, but from what Sasuke understood, the man was a master of seals, second to none. Sasuke wasn't sure if he was pleased with such development or not. He remembered the power that Curse Mark gave, how easily he overpowered the Sound Genin. But at the same time he remembered the reactions of others around him. His actions, words, his whole presence made others fear him, look at him as if he did something horrible. Sasuke hated himself, because he remembered that he enjoyed breaking Zaku's arms, that he was savoring his fear, loved the feeling of having someone's life in his hands. Was that what Itachi felt when he slaughtered all those he loved? Not like him. Sasuke shook his head. He didn't want to become his brother, to become the very thing he wanted to destroy. What point was there in vengeance, if in the process he would just replace Itachi as a new monster with the Sharingan? No. He would face Itachi on his own terms, fight him with his own power. It would be his own revenge and nobody else had any part in it. The decision seemed to make the throbbing of the curse mark disappear, like it was disappointed at Sasuke's thoughts, but the idea only made the Uchiha smile. If anything, that mark would be a good reminder. Itachi became a monster seeking power, Sasuke would not follow in his steps. Resisting this temptation would make him stronger than Itachi. Sasuke would defeat him not only through the strength of ninjutsu, but through the strength of his will as well. I don't need this, Itachi. Sasuke spoke with his head raised. I will end you, as the Uchiha, with the power of our clan. You betrayed all that was held dear in order to gain more power. I'll prove to you that it was a mistake. I'll show you how a true Uchiha becomes strong. What a dump. Jiraiya looked around Naruto's room. Moments ago he climbed in through the window and threw the genin on his bed to rest up. The blonde passed out after riding atop Gamabunta for a good 3 hours, a feat that somewhat impressed the Toad Boss. But by the moment the Toad Boss was finished, Naruto himself was out like a candle and slid off Gamabunta's head onto the ground. That left Jiraiya with the job of taking the kid back to his apartment to rest and restore energy. But most importantly was that Naruto managed to access the Nine Tails chakra, maintain his sanity and control the massive energy in a stable form. That was a combined result of Naruto's chakra control exercises and his impressive willpower that easily suppressed the effects of being exposed to the Demon Fox chakra. Alright, now time to do some so much needed research. Jiraiya grinned and stepped towards the window. But in the darkness he stepped into a half-empty bowl of ramen and with a loud scream fell down. Amazingly, Naruto slept through the noise and just mumbled something in his sleep. Or I could stay here and look after the brat, just in case. Jiraiya looked straight up while being sprawled over the floor. Nah. Research awaits. Jiraiya jumped up and rushed to the window, this time his leg getting tangled up in a pair of discarded pants, forcing Jiraiya to fall down, hitting his head on the chair. Ow, my nose. The old pervert sat up rubbing his face. Fine. I get it. Hope you are laughing your off up there, Minato, with your redhead of a wife. Jiraiya looked straight up. With a sigh he moved over to the window, but didn't climb out, just sat down and looked over the scenery. Naruto's apartment had one great thing about it, the view from the window was awesome. A scene under the star-filled sky. I am a genius. Jiraiya pulled out his notebook and began to write quickly. It was the first time in years since he took inspiration from anything else but the beautiful lady. Naruto, open up. Someone was banging on the door without much ceremonies. The blonde jumped up in his bed. He didn't remember getting back, but his sore body sure reminded him of the ride Gamabunta gave him. Good thing the exam finals were another 5 days away. Rubbing his eyes, Naruto went over to open the door. He blindly smacking against the wall, somewhat missing the doorway to the corridor. I am here. No need to tear my door down. UGHH, hi Sakura-chan. Naruto grinned when he recognized his teammate, who looked at him with an annoyed expression. You were still asleep, at this hour. Sorry. Pervy Sage is a slave driver, but I now know some awesome techniques. Really? So he is really good as a teacher? Sakura asked. If you don't mind him being a king among the perverts. He peeks on girls every time he gets a chance. I found out he writes that excuse for a book Kakashi-sensei reads. He writes that inappropriate piece of literature. Sakura had to stop herself a couple of times from saying something she would later feel sorry about. Yeah, he actually feels proud about it. But he knows his jutsu, I'll give him that. Well, as long as you are getting better. Listen, I went to the hospital yesterday. Lee should be allowed to have visitors today. I thought we'd go cheer him up. Bushy brows. Sure thing. He is all right. What about Sasuke? Will he come? He is not home. Must be off training with Kakashi-sensei again. What about your own training with Jiraiya-sama? Jiraiya-sama. PFF'd. Just call him Pervy Sage, it suits him more. As for training, he'll appreciate a chance to do his so-called research. Research? You mean he is researching ninja techniques or something? Sakura wondered. He is researching women. Less clothes the better. I'll just find him somewhere near the hot springs. That is so wrong. To think, wait. Sakura suddenly realized something and grabbed Naruto by the collar, pulling him closer. Where was here yesterday around noon? He was busy tossing me down the canyon. Naruto replied, surprised by Sakura's reaction. Oh, that's a relief. I went to the hot springs yesterday. To think that guy would, you know. Sakura went a bit red. And I have to spend most of my day around him. How do you think I feel? You of all people should get along fine around him, since you invented that perverted jutsu you used against him in the hospital. That is meant to be used against perverts. Naruto objected. Whatever. Let's go before the visiting hours are over. So, what have you been doing lately, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked as they walked towards the hospital. Nothing really. Helped my mother a few times, hanged out with Ino. Nothing interesting. What about ninja training? I am not in the finals, Naruto. Sakura reminded her teammate. So, it doesn't mean you are no longer a ninja, does it? Of course not, it is just that I have no sensei right now, nobody to teach me. Sakura actually was somewhat embarrassed when Naruto reminded her about her ninja duties. She really didn't take her ninja career all that seriously lately. Oh, yeah, forgot. Sorry Sakura-chan, but once the exams are over we will be training as a team again. Sure, that would be nice. Sakura smiled. With her teammates busy preparing for the exams she had little to do and was both bored and lonely. The duo soon reached the hospital. They had to first find out what room Lee was in, but before they reached the reception they ran into someone they were not expecting to see. Shikamaru, why are you here of all people? Naruto asked the lazy Naru, who sighed and mumbled something resembling, troublesome. I am here to visit Choji. That is what teammates do. Choji, he is still in the hospital. I didn't know it was this serious. Sakura looked worried. Nah, he was fine 3 days after his fight in the preliminaries. He just ate too much barbecue yesterday and ended up here, again. Oh well, it is nice of you to visit him then. Sakura smiled. I guess. Why are you two here by the way? We heard that Bushy Brows is allowed to have visitors. Naruto explained with a grin. Troublesome. Fine, let's go. He is in the room just opposite of Choji, I'll show you the way. Not much work since you would be going the same way anyway. Naruto said and Shikamaru sighed again. They went up to the 3rd floor and down the corridor. Naruto hated hospitals and was sorry for anyone who had to be stuck in there. It looked too clean for him, smelled strange and had no ramen. Everything else could be excused, but not having ramen was a crime in his book. There, this is his room. Seems he already has visitors. Shikamaru saw a very familiar figure next to Lee's bed. Sand was wrapped around the bed and knowing Gaara's abilities, it would only take a moment for him to crush Lee along with the bed. Shikamaru instantly unleashed his shadow possession jutsu, preventing Gaara from moving. You bastard. You already won against him, let it go. Naruto growled. Sakura was desperately trying to figure what to do in this situation, but for now could only silently back up Naruto and Shikamaru. She was unarmed and could really do very little against the Sand Shinobi. His death will serve a purpose of proving my existence. Gaara slowly turned around, proving that even Shikamaru could not hold him. You kill to prove your own existence. What sick logic is that? Naruto growled. One can only really feel alive when his existence is at stake, when he has a chance to rob another of his life, to prove his own right to exist. By killing those who oppose me only can I feel truly alive. He was a dangerous opponent, his death will help me prove my right to exist. Gaara spoke in a low monotone that sent shivers down Sakura's spine. Then you should be worried. Shikamaru decided to bluff. Neither me or Naruto demonstrated our true abilities in the preliminaries. Crushing ants under my feet does not prove my existence. Move away, or I will break you. Gaara spoke, not intimidated in the slightest. Really now? Naruto growled. The attitude of the Sand Genin was making his blood boil. Care to say that in my face? Gaara's eyes widened when he saw Naruto's eyes turn red. He was giving off an aura of primal rage that made Shikamaru and Sakura stare at the blonde, for a moment forgetting about Gaara. But the menacing aura was directed at the Sand Genin, who took a small step back, the sand around Lee's bed moving back and floating in midair around Gaara. This feeling, Gaara didn't understand it. It was unfamiliar, new, but then again, he sort of knew what it was. Fear. But why? Why was he, Gaara of the Sand, so afraid of the blonde Genin in front of him? Why did the gaze of those red eyes pierce his very being? Why did something inside of him shiver, turn small and crawl back in the farthest corner of his soul? Why for the first time in his life, did he feel like prey? Like a rabbit cornered by the fox. No escape, no chance, only inevitable end. Gaara closed his eyes taking a deep breath, calming down. The sand that swirled around him in a protective manner was partially pulled back in his gourd. Uzumaki Naruto. When time comes, you will make me feel truly alive. Gaara spoke and disappeared in a swirl of sand. The moment he left, the atmosphere eased up and Naruto's body relaxed. Quick check on Lee. Sakura rushed to the bed relieved that Lee was breathing steadily and that there was nothing wrong with him. Good thing we came by. Shikamaru sat on a nearby chair. He tried using as much chakra as he could to hold Gaara, but the Sand Genin was a powerhouse that was able to easily break out of his hold. So, how is he? Naruto asked. He seems fine. That guy didn't have time to do anything harmful, Sakura said and looked up at her teammate. Naruto. How? Quote, I guess he knows when he faces an awesome ninja, huh? Naruto grinned boastfully and Sakura nodded, not knowing what to think. What on earth was Jiraiya teaching her teammate? His aura, his presence, a moment ago it gave off the same menacing vibe as in the Forest of Death, when he opposed Orochimaru. Only now it wasn't a mass of rage and anger that washed over the area. It was directed, controlled. It was an invisible, but very clear threat that everyone present understood. Back away, or I will rip you apart. Neji stopped spinning. The area around him was littered with a variety of weapons that his teammate had launched at him. It was a rain of razor-sharp metal, but Neji's technique deflected every single attack. Nobody taught it to him, but that was unnecessary. He could observe, watch and figure things out by himself. Juken came naturally to him. He understood it on a deeper level than most in his clan. It wasn't just in his blood, it was something more. Again, Neji said, sliding back into Juken's stance. Again, I am running out of weapons already. Tenten objected, but Neji looked up sharply at her and she complied. Tenten pulled out another scroll, while mumbling something angrily. A moment later her scroll began producing weapons at an amazing speed, while she began bombarding her teammate. Kaden. Neji began spinning, releasing chakra from all of his tenketsu and creating a dome of spinning chakra around him, deflecting all of the attacks. It didn't matter what direction they came from, the result was the same. The weapons that could easily slice through flesh simply bounced off the spinning dome of chakra, helplessly falling around. Even though Tenten was somewhat annoyed, she couldn't help but be impressed by the skill of her teammate. He was deadly in hand-to-hand combat, but with his new technique he also had an impressive, all but impenetrable defense at his disposal. All right, I am out. Until I gather all of these and reseal them in the scrolls, one won't be able to continue. Tenten declared once Neji stopped spinning. He nodded without saying a word and after a moment began helping her gather the weapons. After all, she was helping him to train. You sure are training hard before the finals. Tenten commented. Worried about your opponent? No, Naruto does not concern me. The outcome of our match is quite clear and I see no need to worry about it. Then why push yourself so hard? I always train hard, you know that. Such is my role in this world, as it was decided. Yeah, heard that already. But still, Naruto did surprise everyone during the preliminaries. Maybe he will be more of a challenge than you think. Doubtful. Inuzuka lost because of his arrogance and inability to see the obvious. His arrogance was his downfall. I will not repeat his mistakes. You sound pretty arrogant right now if you ask me. Tenten unrolled a scroll in front of a pile of weapons and began resealing them. Do not mistake arrogance with an ability to see reality. Neji brought another pile of weapons, adding them to the pile in front of his teammate. Whatever you say. Tenten shrugged. She was also quite sure that Neji would win, but wasn't so sure that he would have such an easy time doing it. Naruto was simply so stubborn that she couldn't imagine him losing quickly. Ah, my youthful students. A pleasure to see you training hard this fine day. But I have splendid news. Guy appeared in the clearing. Every day I hope he will just say hi. I am wrong once again. Tenten rolled her eyes. What is it, sensei? Neji asked. I have just received a message, that Lee is allowed to have visitors. So get ready to follow me and support our youthful comrade. Guy smiled his bright smile and Tenten rolled her eyes. Sensei, we'd love to go, but first I need to gather my gear. The weapon mistress explained. Yes, of course. I will aid you in your task, and if we will not be finished in 10 minutes I will walk all the way to the hospital on my hands. Why me? Tenten rubbed her face imagining walking next to her sensei through the village while he was trying to complete his own ridiculous task. In order for that not to happen, she began resealing weapon as quickly as she could. The arena resembled a giant beehive with all the people moving around, trying to find their seats. The fights between ninjas were always a spectacle, but it was very rare that one could observe them without being in danger. Thus it was of no surprise that the arena was filled with audience, especially considering the list of participants. But if the civilians came to enjoy the show, those who sat in the well-guarded section around the central building came for other reasons. Those were heads of the clans, representatives from major merchant guilds, members of nobility, other figures with significant power in their hands. They would judge the strength of the villages participating by observing the performance of their younger generation. It could influence the amounts of mission requests the village would receive, and that in return would influence the amount of money and funding the village would get. And finally, the finals of the Chunin exams were a fine chance for those interested to try and make a bet on one of the participants. Look, they are coming out. Ino clapped when the participants began appearing in the arena below. Hayate, who was once more the proctor of the exams, lined them up, facing the balcony where the Hokage sat along with his colleague from the Sand Village. All right, cough, this is the final stage of the exam. The rules are, cough, the same as in the preliminaries. So if I stop the fight, you stop, cough, fighting. Got it. Hayate for a moment glanced at Neji, who didn't react in any way, even though he obviously noticed that. All except the first two participants moved to the observation balcony. Good luck, Sasuke-kun. Ino waved, standing up in her spot when Sasuke moved towards the entrance leading to the staircase up to the observation balcony for the genin. He didn't hear Ino though, the noise from the crowd made that impossible. Neither did he hear Sakura, who entered into an argument with Ino over who had the right to wish him luck. Even if he did hear that, he would not have paid any attention. Right now he was looking at Gaara, who was slowly walking in front of him. Naruto in the meantime was facing Neji, openly glaring at the young Hyuga. You both remember the cough rules. Both genin nodded and Hayate looked up at the audience for a moment. The first match of the preliminaries, Uzumaki Naruto against Hyuga Neji. Begin. Hayate jumped back, but the two genin didn't immediately engage in combat, instead they both seemed to inspect each other. Neji was the first to speak. Spare me the time and yourself the humiliation, Uzumaki. Just give up. Ha. You don't know me very well, do you? I am not into giving up. How about another offer? I pound you into the ground and then drag you over to Hinata and you will apologize to her. The girl in question suddenly went red, while watching the exchange. Kiba, who sat next to her, was also a bit surprised by what Naruto said and really hoped the blonde would beat Neji, even if it was unlikely. Then again, it was unlikely that Naruto could beat him during the preliminary round, but here he was, sitting among the audience, while Naruto was down there in the arena. With Naruto around, one should expect the unexpected, and Kiba had a hunch that Neji would find that out the hard way. You still don't understand. Your bravado means noting. Your fate has already been sealed the moment you were born. You were born a failure. You are a failure and you will die a failure. So, that means you will die a jerk. Naruto smirked. I tried to reason with you, Uzumaki, but as I though it is useless. I will teach you a lesson about reality. Yeah, about that, you can ask Iruka-sensei, I am not that good of a student. But let me tell you something, Neji, something I learned. Or better, let me show you. Then show me, Uzumaki, that is, if you will even be able to touch me. Byakugan. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Around a dozen of clones appeared around Naruto, ready to charge Neji, who slid into the usual Juken stance, waiting for Naruto to make the first move. He noticed that his Byakugan was unable to tell the difference between Naruto and his clones. Naruto himself remembered the fight in the preliminaries. He didn't exactly understand the explanation Kakashi gave them about how Juken worked, but he understood that Neji could seriously hurt him even by a gently touch. He also remembered that those eyes could see everything around him. Well, even if those eyes of his can see everything around, it doesn't mean that he has more than 2 arms. Naruto decided and his clones attacked from all directions. Neji began moving around, the clones disappearing one after another from his quick precise strikes. For now they didn't pose much of a threat, but then some of the clones began throwing shuriken and kunai at him. For Neji that wasn't much of a challenge as well, but he had to pay attention even to the clones in the distance, not a simple task considering the amount of copies Naruto kept creating. Ah! Neji struck another clone and felt burning sensation on his forearm. He looked down and saw a thin, shallow cut. It wasn't even bleeding much, but it was there, left by a shuriken that was now stuck in the ground in front of him. I thought you said I would not be able to even touch you, Neji. Naruto mocked. Neji himself was a bit surprised, but then shook his head. Considering the amount of attacks Naruto unleashed, it was quite possible that one slipped through the Byakugan blind spot. It would not happen again. You can be happy over your insignificant achievement, it does not change anything. No, it does. Naruto frowned. It proves that you can be wrong. Only a fool like you would be happy over something like this. Come Uzumaki, I will show you, who among us is wrong. Neji charged at Naruto, but not surprisingly the clones jumped him trying to intercept his attack. They were all around him and would strike in a moment. It seemed like there was no escape for the Hyuga. Kaden. The numerous clones were thrown back, some that were closer disappearing almost immediately, others falling all around, before exploding in a puff of smoke. But more importantly, there now was no more obstacles for Neji and he moved towards Naruto, aiming a strike to the chest. Gah! Naruto gasped from pain and stumbled back. But Neji's satisfied smirk disappeared when Naruto he struck exploded in another puff of smoke. Another clone. Then I see. Neji turned around. There was only one remaining Naruto in the arena and his was crouching down some distance away. You were among the attacking clones, while one of them posed as the real you. Unfortunately you gained nothing out of your little charade, except prolonging this useless struggle. Damn, you talk big, Neji. But if you haven't noticed, you didn't achieve much as well, except revealing your trump card. Naruto said angrily. The Hyuga so had it coming by now. Well, good strategy, Naruto. Kakashi commented lowering his little orange book. It was only then that Sakura noticed her sensei being present. Kakashi-sensei. Yo. Kakashi raised his hand in a greeting. Interesting fight, isn't it? I guess, but I don't understand what is Naruto trying to achieve. Neji's advantage seems overwhelming if he can use that protective jutsu he just did. Well, Naruto seems to have decided on not getting close to Neji without a good reason, a wise choice considering his opponent. But I think what is more important, is that he uses his incredible talent at annoying people. Ino looked at Kakashi. Since when is that a good thing? Neji is usually calm, collected, capable of correctly analyzing the situation. But Naruto is making him angry. He is not showing it, but one can see that Neji is frustrated. To him it seems as if Naruto mocks him. For Neji, to be mocked by someone he considers beneath him, is something worthy of retribution. But anger can make even the Byakugan blind. Since when does Naruto think during battle? Sakura turned back to her teammate. Naruto mostly just charged into the heat of things. Naruto is impulsive, but also very creative. Remember, he was behind the strategy to free me from Zabuza's jutsu. He thought ahead and hid the scroll during the exams. He managed to outsmart Kiba several times during their fight in the preliminaries. Sure, he is an idiot, but he is one of the smartest idiots I have ever seen. Unpredictable and stubborn too, Naruto. This world is going nuts. Ino shook her head, turning back to the fight. Well, come on, Neji, you said I don't stand a chance, right? Then there is nothing for you to fear. Why are you still over there? You will learn to answer for your words. Neji attacked once more. Naruto again began creating clones, but they only slowed down Neji's advance, who made them disappear one after another. One of the clones flew over Naruto's head, before disappearing, leaving only a cloud of smoke behind. Jukin. Neji threw two more clones again and appeared before the real Naruto, once more aiming a palm strike to the chest. The clones were Naruto's physical copies, thus they had the same reaction time as the original. He would not be able to avoid the strike. Neji's hand stopped inches away from Naruto's chest, when Naruto grabbed his wrist with both hands. To Neji's surprise, Naruto's grip was strong enough to actually hurt him and there was no moving away. Let go. Neji slammed his other hand against Naruto's thigh, tearing up the muscles inside, earning a pained scream from Naruto, who still didn't let go. Instead, Neji saw that all of the remaining clones charged at Neji. No spinning this time. Naruto glared and dropped down, wrapping his legs around Neji's feet, while still holding his hand. Neji immediately understood that Naruto had anchored him, preventing him from using Kaden and trapping him in a rather uncomfortable pose. Eat this. One of the clones rammed his fist into Neji's face, just as Naruto finally released him. Neji flew back, right over several Narutos sliding on the ground. Nah! A clone kicked Neji into the air. Ru! Another clone sent him even higher. 2. The final kick propelled Neji even higher into the air and Neji understood what was going to happen. He already saw another clone appear over him to send him crashing into the ground with a final powerful strike. Uzumaki Barrage. Kaden. Neji began spinning in mid-air, throwing the clone away and avoiding the finishing move. A moment later Neji landed on his feet and slid back, scowling from the pain. He looked up and saw Naruto standing, favoring his right leg. Neji's single strike caused quite a bit of damage, but to think that the single strike came at such a high cost. Oh, so close. Sakura nearly jumped up. Kakashi himself was watching the fight with unmistakable interest. You struggle against your fate, Uzumaki Naruto. You try to oppose it. Neji looked at Naruto with slight irritation. That is foolish. I remember, you boasted about becoming Hokage. No, not you. Those who become Hokage are born with such a destiny. Others have other fates they must follow obediently. Those who try to oppose get crushed. Naruto was silent, listening to Neji, until his mouth curved into a smile. So what? Destiny, you say? I know no such thing. If you think I will be crushed, come here and prove it. Because I will not back away from my beliefs. Where have I heard something similar? Neji shrugged and attacked once more. He was already used to Naruto's clones, he knew all his tricks, he knew he could and would end it. But the blonde deserved not just to be defeated, he would show him how useless it was to oppose him in the first place, to oppose his destiny. Kaden. Neji threw the last attacking clones away and moved towards Naruto, who had a hard time moving away with his injured leg. Neji suddenly slid into a much lower stance, preparing for his most powerful attack. That stance. Hiashi leaned closer, understanding what Neji was about to do. For Neji the world all but stopped. He could see everything around with perfect clarity, every little detail, including Naruto's tenketsu. He had his target, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Neji unleashed his attack, releasing a barrage of strike on Naruto, painfully blocking his tenketsu one after another at an alarming rate, until he delivered a double palm strike to Naruto's chest, sending the blonde flying back. This is the end, I am afraid. Kakashi sighed. With all of his tenketsu blocked, Naruto had no access to his massive chakra reserves and thus could not use his shadow clones. Proctor, finish this fight, he will not be getting up. Neji turned to Hayate, but the Chunin never moved, just looked in Naruto's direction. Not getting up. Then, what am I doing now? Naruto slowly pulled himself up and glared at Neji, who frowned at his opponent's stubbornness. You don't learn, do you? You just can't accept your fate. You are like a broken record, Neji, this is getting old. Indeed, I already explained that everyone has his or her destiny. You, me, everyone. Neji slowly untied his forehead protector, revealing a strange mark on his forehead. See this, Uzumaki. This is the mark of my fate. The caged bird seal. It means that I will forever serve the main branch of the Hyuga clan, protect them, give up my life for them, even though that duty cost me my father. But such is my fate, Uzumaki Naruto, and I must follow it. Naruto watched the seal on Neji's forehead, somewhat understanding the older boy, but not accepting his views on the world. Hey, big deal, you do not know what it means to have a seal, for your fate to be sealed from the moment you come into this world. No, I do. I know what that means, Neji, far better than you. Naruto smiled sadly and then began to laugh. You laugh. How dare you to laugh? Why do you laugh? Neji demanded. It is funny. You speak about fate and yet you yourself are fighting it. What are you blabbering about? Your fate is to protect the main branch of the clan, as you say, yet you nearly killed Hinata when you had the chance. I know why. Because you saw that she is braver than you, better. She admits her faults and tries to change and was willing to risk anything for that, even her life, by facing you. You are laughable, Hyuga Neji. Enough. Neji charged forward, aiming for Naruto's heart to end it, but to his shock Naruto grabbed his wrist and pulled his arm away. Neji attempted to strike with his other hand, but the same happened, with Naruto easily spreading Neji's hand wide. All of a sudden, Naruto was releasing an aura that made Neji almost feel sick. Through his Byakugan he saw that one after another the chakra points in Naruto's body began to open up as a massive amount of chakra flooded Naruto's chakra network. It was different from before, violent, wild. Naruto looked up at Neji and the young Hyuga gasped when he saw strange red eyes glaring at him with unmistakable anger. See Neji, you are not so special after all. Care to blame fate? Naruto then head-butted the taller boy in the mouth, but just as Neji's head shot back, Naruto delivered a knee to Neji's gut, just before finally releasing Neji and smashing his fist into Neji's eye, sending the Hyuga flying back like some broken doll. This can't be happening. Impossible. Tenten watched with wide eyes how Naruto was brutally overpowering someone who in her opinion was the most powerful genin present. Where did that come from? Neji began pulling himself up. That power, that aura and most of all that chakra. Wild, twisting, powerful energy. Was that even chakra? Neji had no time to think, as Naruto charged at him, ground exploding under his feet. To his shock Neji saw that Naruto's leg now worked normally, like it was never injured. Naruto. That really you, Naruto? Sasuke was watching Naruto with shock. He knew Naruto was unpredictable, but this, it was like in the forest of death, only more powerful, much more controlled. But what was it? Sasuke suddenly felt something strange and looked to the side. Gaara stood there, watching the fight with a maniacal grin on his face. Yes, crush him Uzumaki Naruto, so that I will be able to face you and feel so much alive. Sasuke didn't know even how to react to that and just looked back at the fight. Neji was retreating under the barrage of Naruto's strikes. He didn't even have time to properly counter-attack, and whatever damage he delivered, the blonde didn't seem to notice. Juken was as useless against him as it was against a concrete wall. Neji was just wasting his own chakra with every strike. Naruto suddenly jumped, and delivered a powerful spin kick. At the last moment Neji raised his hands to block and immediately felt sorry that he didn't duck under the strike instead. His bones all but broke from the impact, and then he was thrown away with enough force to slam hard against the arena wall. Ag! Neji moaned in pain, rolling over. He saw Naruto appear on the arena wall and kick off of it, launching himself towards Neji like a rocket. The arena wall cracked from the power, and Neji barely managed to push himself out of the way when the strike came. As in slow motion Neji saw how Naruto's fist sank into the ground, like it was made of butter, and then the ground exploded from the force. Neji once more was thrown away, landing some distance away. He began getting up and saw Naruto ran out of the large dust cloud his strike created. "You are scared, Neji." The Hyuga heard the blonde all but roar. "You should be, because you are a coward, hiding behind fate, unwilling to stand up and fight it. If you can't face yourself, how can you hope to beat me? You spit on dreams and hopes of others, you see them as pointless. I refuse to accept that. I will become Hokage." Kaden. Neji barely managed to start his technique when Naruto moved forward. For a moment two forces fought for dominance, until Neji felt his barrier fail, but it did deflect Naruto's attack. The power threw both Naruto and Neji away. Neji flew through the air and slid on the ground after landing, digging a long trench. Naruto flew back spinning towards the arena wall, but disappeared in a puff of smoke before hitting it. A shadow clone, but when Hayate looked around and finally saw the real Naruto jump out of the dust cloud. He landed right over Neji, who no longer even had strength to move, just looked at Naruto with a shocked impression as he saw the rage and strange chakra disappear. "Shadow clone jutsu. I should have guessed," Neji said, looking at Naruto. "Just so that you would know. I failed the Genin graduation exam 3 times, because I wasn't able to do even a simple clone jutsu. But remember I told you I learned something." Naruto grabbed Neji by his clothes, pulling him closer, partially lifting off the ground. "I learned that there is no use blaming fate. You shape your fate, through pain and defeats, through grief and sorrow. You have to dig through a mountain of dirt before you find something of worth." Naruto let Neji go, allowing him to slump down. "Oh, and one last thing." Naruto looked sharply at Neji and punched the young Hyuga prodigy. Neji closed his eyes for a moment when Naruto's fist made his face explode in pain. "Apologize to Hinata, or I will find you and break you, Hyuga Neji." Naruto's eyes flashed with red and Neji nodded slowly, blood streaming from his nose. "That is enough." Hayate approached the 2 genin. "No problem, I am done with him." Naruto stepped back slowly. Hayate looked over Neji and understood that the boy was not going anywhere by himself. He motioned for a medical team to come and turned to Naruto. "The winner, Uzumaki Naruto." For some time there was silence, but then someone began to clap. Despite being red as a tomato, Hinata clapped, soon joined by Kiba and then by people around, and soon the whole arena was clapping while Naruto stood there with his shocked expression. "Yeah, way to go Naruto. That's my teammate. You showed him what Team 7 is made of." Sakura cheered. "Quite a spectacle you gave everyone, Naruto." Kakashi smiled under his mask. "Got to hand it to you, Naruto. You did something I wasn't sure was possible." Tenten clapped and nodded. He did far more than she expected. Even the 3rd Hokage clapped. He was wondering if it was Jiraiya who taught Naruto to control the fox's chakra at such a level. But more importantly was that he once more witnessed Naruto's determination and willpower. It was a sight to behold, to witness one overcome one obstacle after another despite anything life threw at him. To see that finally the whole village cheered for the outcast it once shunned. "You were, fated to win today." Hayate crouched down next to the stretcher as the medics prepared to carry Neji away. But his belief was stronger, than fate, and forced fate to change. "You, lost before this battle even begun. Father, how is this possible?" Hanabi looked at her father, who in deep thought. The girl didn't know what surprised her more. The fact that Neji lost, or the fact that the village cheered for the one who defeated him. It was strange. The Hyugas were the strongest of Konoha. Her father instructed her to carefully observe the fight, but all she saw was how Neji proved their clan most prized techniques utterly useless against the blonde shinobi. At one moment, when Neji's opponent unleashed that strange animalistic power, Hanabi barely fought down an urge to jump up and run away. "Stay here, Hanabi, there is something I must do." Hiyashi stood up and walked away. He quickly walked towards the medical wing, built under the arena's main structure. He didn't notice though, how his older daughter, who was clapping a moment ago, suddenly turned pale and sank down into her chair. Hinata, you all right?" Kiba turned to his teammate. I don't know." Hinata turned to him, feeling incredibly weak. "I knew you should have stayed at the hospital. The doctors said you are not completely healed. Come on, we need to get you out of here." Kiba helped Hinata stand up, supporting her weight and led her out of the stands. Hinata barely moved and their progress was painfully slow, until suddenly the girl fell down and began to cough out blood. "Hinata." Kiba kneeled in front of her with panic written all over his face. Akamaru, who was riding on Kiba's head, whined with concern. Kiba turned the girl over, but she was unconscious. The young Inuzuka knew next to nothing about medicine, especially when it came to heart injuries caused by Jukin. He was about to run off looking for help when he noticed a dark figure standing over them. It was someone in a dark cloak that hid most of the figure and an all too familiar mask. "Anbu operative, let me have a look." The Anbu crouched down. Green medical chakra appeared around Anbu's hand as he began to treat Hinata. Kiba watched in amazement how Hinata's breathing began steady, how color returned to her face, how the pained expression left her face, replaced by the one of peace. "Whoa, you Anbu guys are awesome." Kiba grinned. "She needs rest, but she will recover nicely." The Anbu never acknowledged the praise and spoke in a calm, emotionless tone that perfectly suited his mysterious appearance. Neither of those present noticed someone observing the scene. From afar you could mistake him for some kind of elaborate decoration, as his clothes were of almost the same color as the stone the support column was made of. "So, there you are, Kabuto." The figure narrowed his eyes. The cloak and the mask made it almost impossible to recognize the spy, but that medical technique and the hand that used it. There was no mistaking it. "Wait, what do you mean his scent is familiar? This guy is Anbu." Kiba turned to Akamaru, who growled at the masked man in front of them. "About that, I am afraid your partner is correct." A hand glowing with green medical chakra suddenly hit Kiba in the chest and the boy was out like a candle. Akamaru dropped over him when the impostor hit the puppy with 2 fingers, right in the neck. "But it is not that you will warn anyone." Kabuto stood up, looking over his handiwork. These genin were so insignificant that there was no use in killing them. Kabuto looked to the side, but the area was clear. He didn't see or hear anything, just felt being watched for a fraction of a second. It was strange, but when you are a spy, you get used to being watched. Soon, the archer, who relocated onto the support beam right over Kabuto, whispered. He then slowly crept away. For a moment he glanced to the side and saw that the next fight was about to start. He recognized the Uchiha, facing the Sand Shinobi, Gaara of the Sand, who had the reputation of a merciless killer. The archer looked around carefully. He could see several figures in dark cloaks around the area, but there were too few to ensure the security of the arena. This made it seem like Konoha was not expecting an attack, like it was careless, when in reality it was like a predator. It looked harmless, its fangs and claws hidden. The illusion of vulnerability was like a bait, and soon enough the trap would be sprung and blood would flow in rivers, and lives would end. The smell of death and screams of wounded wolves spread across the village hidden in the leaves. And by the end of it, some of the living will envy the dead. For in death peace will be found and all debts will be paid in full. So, this is the sand I heard about. Sasuke watched as sand began to pour out of Gaara's gourd. Just a moment ago Hayate started the fight and Gaara did not hesitate to unleash his sand that now was floating around him in a protective manner, waiting for the Uchiha to attack and understand how pointless it would be. Uchiha Sasuke. Gaara spoke slowly. You no longer interest me. I will crush you and face the one, whose death will prove the value of my existence. So come and be crushed into nothing. Gaara's dismissal of his abilities made Sasuke's blood boil. But then again he couldn't blame Gaara for wanting to fight Naruto. Sasuke himself admitted that the idea of fighting his teammate made him shake in anticipation. But first was Gaara, and Sasuke had the means to make the sand ninja regret his words. Back in the stand the audience silently waited for the actual fighting to begin, but just like in the last fight, the opponents were in no hurry to make the first move. Yes, I see that your student is ready to demonstrate his flames of youth. Guy's voice rang. Hello, Guy. Kakashi raised his hand. And hello, Lee. Nice to see you up and moving. These injuries shall not stop me from observing the demonstration of skills by my comrades. Lee declared, while supporting himself on the crouches. But I must ask of the outcome of the match between Naruto and Neji. No offense, Lee, but Naruto pounded your jerk of a teammate silly. Sakura said, turning to Lee, happy to see the fellow genin back on his feet. So, Naruto won? Lee asked. Yeah, you can see him at the observation balcony. Kakashi looked to the side. Lee turned his head and indeed saw the blonde loudmouth leaning on the railing and yelling something. Hey, good job Naruto. Lee nodded. Yes, it saddens me that my student was defeated by one of yours, but I will not deny the strength of your most youthful student, Kakashi. I agree to admit that this counts as a point in our eternal rivalry. Huh, what was that guy? Kakashi. Not again. You and your attitude, I so hate it. Guy pulled his hair, glaring at Kakashi. Whoa, talk about him being a drama queen. Ino looked at Guy in amazement. He never understood how a Chunin could be so emotional. Then again Guy was strange as one guy could get. The whole scene naturally went unnoticed by Sasuke, who observed Gaara, but the sand genin stood motionlessly. For a moment the last Uchiha began to wonder if Gaara even breathed. Fine. You wanted me, here I am. Sasuke charged. His first punch was blocked, as was the second. He saw the sand begin to move around him and jumped into the air, unleashing a handful of shuriken at Gaara. The ninja stars didn't do much, as Gaara's sand caught them and Gaara's palm curled into a fist, the sand crushing the weapons into several lumps of deformed metal, demonstrating the power he wielded. Gaara seemed annoyed. He wasn't interested in this fight, he wanted to end it quickly. His sand shot forward, trying to box Sasuke in and then crush him, like all those that came before him. The Uchiha dodged as long as he could, but more and more tendrils of sand came his way as he was pushed back towards the arena wall. It seemed like there was no end to the sand, and finally Sasuke felt his back press against the arena wall. Now die. Gaara raised his hand and the sand shot forward, striking with enough force to make the area tremble. Sasuke-kun. Sakura jumped up in her seat, but then saw something that made her heart skip a beat. Sasuke appeared right behind Gaara, who slowly turned in shock, only for his face to meet with Sasuke's punch. Gaara stumbled back. His sand armor withstood the punch, but he still felt it. Hiding behind your armor, it won't help you. Sasuke moved in an amazing speed. It was now clear what Sasuke's tactic was. Most of Gaara's sand was concentrated on the other end of the arena and Gaara needed time to call it back, and time was not something Sasuke was giving him, as he unleashed a barrage of punches at Gaara, the armor of sand crumbling away bit by bit. That speed, he is using my taijutsu. Lee recognized his style. Yes, Lee, but unlike you, Sasuke cannot keep it up indefinitely. Kakashi explained. His Sharingan copied your style, but naturally did not build up his muscles to your level. It took us a whole month to allow him to move like that, at least for a little while. Don't worry, even the Sharingan can't replace years of training. It is still impressive. Lee nodded. Down below, Sasuke saw how sand flew back. There was little time. He delivered another kick to Gaara's face, and while Gaara was disoriented, grabbed him by his clothes and threw him into the opposite direction, away from the sand. With the sand covering Gaara's body, he was extremely heavy, but that also meant that he landed rather painfully. The gourd on Gaara's back shattered to bits as the sand genin landed, but he himself still seemed uninjured. Kakashi, we both know that Gaara's armor can withstand incredible amounts of punishment. Lee's style and speed might allow Sasuke to hold his own for a while, but what then? Guy looked at his rival with concern. Just watch. Sasuke was already breathing heavily. Moving like this was hard, his muscles protesting, but just a little bit longer. He did what he wanted to do. He separated Gaara from his sand. The sand genin was now most vulnerable, which meant it was time for the last attack. Sasuke flashed through hand seals and grabbed his wrist. He felt chakra gather. He felt it change and felt his hand tremble from the power he held in his palm. His face was illuminated by the blue light and the air was filled with the sound of chirping birds. It was ready and Sasuke charged. Kakashi, you didn't. Guy looked at his rival. Like you have any room to talk, Guy. Kakashi glanced at Lee. Besides, Sasuke is quite capable of handling it. What the hell is that jutsu? Ino opened her mouth, but Sasuke himself answered her question, finally reaching Gaara and thrusting his hand forward. Chidori. 1,000 birds. Explosion shook the foundation of the arena. A dust cloud raised and everyone wondered, how did it end? Did Gaara survive such an attack or not? That was Kakashi Sensei's personal jutsu. Chidori. Sakura confirmed. A blade of lightning that is rumored to be capable of slicing through actual lightning itself. Guy commented and turned to Kakashi. I hope you made a right choice teaching him such a jutsu. The whole arena was silent, waiting for the dust cloud to settle. It seemed like the time slowed down to a painful crawl, but it never actually stopped. Look, Sakura exclaimed. Gaara was floating on a small island of sand that was barely supporting his weight, while Sasuke had one arm stuck up to the elbow in the arena wall. The sand carried Gaara away, until it finally gave in and Gaara dropped down, holding his side. Sasuke with an effort ripped his hand out of the hole he created. I see. Kakashi sighed. Gaara used the sand that made up his armor and created a floating platform to avoid the strike. But still he didn't avoid it completely. Indeed, Gaara slowly pulled himself up, his sand surrounding him once more. The sand genin pulled his hand away and saw something red. He looked down in shock and saw a deep long cut. Sasuke scored just a glancing blow, but even that caused enough damage. This was the most serious wound Gaara received ever. You spilled my blood. Gaara looked up at Sasuke. You threaten my existence, Uchiha. I will not disappear, I will not allow it. Gaara took a step forward, the sand rising behind him. Sasuke leaned on the wall, no longer capable of performing on the level he did, his body protesting loudly, his limbs threatening to fall off. I will soak my sand in your blood, Uchiha Sasuke. I will bleed you dry, I will crush the whole idea of you ever living. I will. Gaara stopped, a shocked, pained expression crawling over to his face. The sand behind him collapsed and Sasuke wondered what was going on. Gaara grabbed his head in pain and dropped to his knees. Yes, yes, I know. Death, blood, he will die, he will die. Die. Sand enveloped Gaara, hiding him for a moment, but then the sand began to violently trash everything in its way. It was a sandstorm in the center of the arena, a sandstorm that began ripping the ground apart, and then something strange appeared out of it. Sasuke barely managed to jump out of the way. He slid on the ground and looked back. He managed to avoid something that looked like a long, thick-clawed hand, or paw made of highly compressed sand. It was unlike anything Gaara used so far. The thing ripped a huge piece out of the arena wall and crushed it to bits. It moved back, but then it stopped, trembled and fell apart. The sandstorm also stopped and Sasuke saw Gaara down on his knees. He looked ready to pass out. With an effort Sasuke stood up, getting ready to defend himself, but it was unclear if Gaara would even be able to keep fighting. Sasuke took a careful step forward and saw something fall on his nose. A feather. Sasuke felt something. He felt a bit sleepy. It was strange. He was tired, but not enough to fall asleep. It was a genjutsu, but a weak one, not strong enough to actually take effect on a trained ninja. But it wasn't Gaara. This was not his style. Sasuke looked around and saw that the stands were incredibly quiet. The audience was quickly falling asleep right where they were sitting. Sasuke highly doubted this was a part of the exams. His doubts were further confirmed when Temari and Kankuro jumped down to the arena, pulling up Gaara and without another word moving away. What is going on? Sasuke ran up the arena wall to the genin observation balcony. He saw Shikamaru get up after a sharp kick from Temari and Naruto holding a piece of cloth Kankuro used to hide his puppet. Shino stood in the middle, with his bugs crawling back under his coat. The next moment 2 ninjas wearing forehead protectors with the symbol of the Sound Village burst into the balcony, with kunai ready to strike. Ga! One of the Sound ninjas flew back against the wall, while the second doubled in pain from the punch. Kakashi seemed to appear out of nowhere. With a quick motion his hand wrapped around the neck of the Sound ninja and with a loud crack, it broke, the body falling limply to the floor. What is going on, Kakashi? Sasuke demanded. Invasion, was a short reply. Exams are over. You 4, I have a mission for you. Follow the Sand Genin team. Keep Gaara away from the village. Got it. Keep him away. What a drag. Shikamaru rolled his eyes. I placed one of my tracker bugs on the puppet master of their team as he was supposed to be my opponent. I can track them, Shino said. Good, move, no time to waste. Wait, what about Sakura-chan? Naruto demanded. She will help evacuate civilians. Go. This is an order. Kakashi said and jumped off the balcony. Everywhere around the Konoha ninjas were engaged in bitter fighting with the members of both the Sound and Sand villages. Let's go. We have an order to carry out. Shino said. Fine by me. Gaara and I have an unfinished business to settle. Sasuke scowled and the 4 genin moved to the arena roof and followed Shino, who knew exactly where the Sand team went. Behind them the arena and most of the village was turning into a giant war zone. And then something else happened. A purple barrier appeared on the roof of the arena central building, separating it from the rest of the battle. The barrier was meant not only to prevent the 3rd Hokage from escaping. No, it had another purpose, much more personal for Orochimaru, who discarded his disguise, no longer posing as the Cage. The Sound 4 were at the corners of the barrier, keeping it up, while Orochimaru himself faced his old teacher. For a moment Orochimaru glanced to the side and with satisfaction saw a trio of Anbu operatives, helpless to do anything to help their Hokage. Even if small it was audience and Orochimaru didn't mind that in the slightest. He was looking forward to showing this ninjas how he would crush the old shinobi before him, and then he would enjoy the sight of this village in ruins, its inhabitants slaughtered by the combined forces of both the Sound and Sand villages. Orochimaru waited years for this day to come and he was looking forward to savoring every moment of it. Tenten immediately identified the genjutsu and cancelled out the effects. It was simple, not really directed at the shinobi present, but the civilian audience around her was in blissful sleep, unaware of what was taking place around them. Of all the what gives, Tenten jumped up and just in time to avoid a strike from a sand ninja. But the sand ninjas were supposed to be their allies. Why was she attacked? There was no time to think about it as another sand ninja appeared in front of her and sent her flying down with a quick punch to the chest. She slammed against a support column and slid down, gasping from pain. To make matters worse, she came to watch the matches, not to fight, and was unarmed. She didn't have even a simple kunai. Gah! Tenten grunted when she stopped a kick aimed to her face, by butting her hands in a cross shape. Training with her teammates came in handy, but she was not an expert when it came to taijutsu. She hit the sand ninja in the knee while his other leg was stretched, dropping him, but the second sand ninja immediately exploited the fact that she was defenseless and slammed her against the column once more. That forced out whatever air was left inside of her lungs. Pain surged through her back as the sand ninja grabbed her by the throat and pulled up, until her feet left the ground. Little bitch. The sand ninja who she kicked in the knee got up with a scowl. He glared at her and pulled out a kunai. Want to kill her? The sand ninja that was holding her asked, his grip becoming tighter, cutting off the supply of oxygen. She desperately tried to think of a way out, but whatever could she do against two seasoned sand shinobi, while being unarmed and unprepared for combat? Oh yes. The sand ninja growled. She dared to kick him. She was going to pay dearly for humiliating him. Then do it quickly. We can't waste time with her. You hear me? The sand ninja looked back at his partner and his eyes widened in shock. His comrade was standing with a surprised expression on his face and a white arrow stuck in his throat. He tried to say something and raised his hand, but then the strength left him. The weapon slid out of his fingers and the man dropped down, unable to breathe, unable to scream, only feeling how the last bits of life left his body along with his blood. Arg! Tenten heard her captor scream in pain and then she fell down, air finally finding its way into her body. She began to cough, but looked up, trying to figure what was going on. She saw the sand ninja screaming due to the white arrow that pierced his wrist. The second ninja was on the ground behind him, a pool of blood gathering under him and the surprised expression forever engraved on his face by death itself. The sand ninja was looking around wildly, trying to spot whoever wounded him, but there was nobody around except the Konoha genin. He took a step back in attempt to retreat, but someone grabbed his shoulder. Before he could do anything, a hand was pressed against his back and the next moment Tenten saw a thick white stake pierce all the way through his chest. It was a thick, but very sharp piece of bone, that now was coated in the blood of the sand shinobi, who was gasping for air, trying to delay the inevitable death. But whoever did that didn't want to wait, as he simply tossed the half-dead ninja to the side, the body smashing through the railing and falling down to the arena, with the bones still stuck in the wound. If the sand ninja wasn't dead yet by then, he would without a doubt die from either the fall or the blood loss. But all those thoughts mattered little right now as Tenten watched the familiar form of the mysterious archer tower over her. He was the same as he was when she faced him in the Forest of Death, same gray outfit, the bow strapped to his back and the cloth mask hiding the lower part of his face. His eyes were also the same, cold, but without any malice. They seemed almost indifferent. Tenten saw him crouch down and take the shuriken and kunai holsters from the dead sand ninja, but he didn't remove the arrow. Then to her shock he threw the weapons to her, the girl catching them on pure reflex. Come, I need your assistance. You need what? Tenten was left completely confused by the archer's request. She didn't know what to even think of this guy, who just stood there waiting for an answer, as if he asked what was the time, or how to find a bathroom. Why on earth would I want to help you with anything? It would be fruitful to move towards a mutual goal. The archer said and turned around. Tenten tried to follow his gaze and saw a strange purple barrier on the roof of the arena's central building. She had no idea what exactly it was, or how it got there. What exactly are you planning? Tenten attached the kunai and shuriken holsters after checking for the amount of weapons she now had. The sand ninjas came well prepared and she felt much more confident now that she had the gear she could use, even if the supply was nowhere near to the amounts she carried sealed up in her scrolls. Unfortunately, her apartment was on the other end of the village, thus it was useless to even dream about getting her usual gear. Your Hokage is engaged in combat with Orochimaru. Too bad for him then. The Hokage is, quote, old. The archer finished for her, making her swallow whatever she wanted to say. That barrier isolates their battle, prevents escape and unwanted interference. Your cage is at a disadvantage. So what do you suggest? Are you saying you know how to break through that barrier? No, I am not aware if the means to take down that barrier exist. Even if they do, they are not at our disposal. But I know the mechanics of that barrier. So keep talking. Tenten listened carefully. I will not disclose any additional information until you confirm your willingness to provide assistance. How can I, if I don't know what you want to achieve, who you are and what are your motives? My motives are my own, but I can assure you that I am not your enemy. If that was the case you would already be dead. Tenten didn't know what to do. This guy was near to impossible to read. She knew almost nothing about him, but had to make a very hard decision. She didn't know the consequences of the options available to her and she didn't have time to sit around and think it over. But if she agreed, then perhaps she would be able to gain additional information, or stop the strange ninja should she confirm that his intentions are harmful for the village. Declining on the other hand would gain her nothing, except maybe a quick death. Why did you ask me? Because I know that you can keep up. Tenten looked curiously at the archer and nodded, admitting his logic. If she was able to pursue him in the forest of death, that also meant that she could keep up with his pace. Fine, I'll come with you. Now talk. We need to get to the arena central building. Preferably as quickly as possible. They are unconscious. A sand Chunin kneeled in front of two prone genin, with three of her partners standing nearby. Is that girl really a Hyuga? One of the asked. No doubt, and look, no seal on the forehead and she is young. To think we are this lucky, found a fortune on the ground. The cage will pay us a nice reward for her and I can't wait to rub it into the faces of those cloud nins that we managed to obtain the bloodline they failed to get so many times. What about the second one? Seems like an Inuzuka, judging by those marking and the dog. Could be worth something too. Take them both. The sand Chunin grabbed Hinata and pulled, but then fell down, screaming. The prone girl was nowhere in sight, unlike the Chunin's severed arms. Can't allow you to do that. Hayate lowered Hinata down and raised his sword, the blade already covered with the blood of the unfortunate sand Chunin who was already passing out due to the blood loss. You bastard! The remaining sand ninjas attacked, but their opponent proved to be a skillful swordsman, slowly retreating, but never leaving an opening his enemies could exploit. His sword was giving him superior reach and soon one of the sand ninjas stumbled back with a cut just over his knee. Hayate took a chance and slammed the hilt of his katana into the sand ninja's face, but before he could deliver a finishing blow he was attacked from the side, forced to go into a roll, avoiding several shuriken, one of which scored a glancing blow on his forearm. Wind style. Decapitating scythe. Hayate ran up the wall and flipped over the razor-sharp wave of air that sliced deep into the stone wall. He ended up behind the sand ninja and struck, slicing through his shoulder. With a scream his opponent stumbled forward, his hand hanging limply as the strike had nearly cut it off, slicing through the bone almost completely. He was saved when the remaining sand nin attacked Hayate, forcing him back for a moment, despite blood streaming down his face from the blow he received earlier. Dance of the Crescent Moon. The sand ninja was helpless against the technique. He never saw Hayate dropping down from his blind spot and never even understood what cleaved him in half. Cough. Hayate covered his mouth looking around, but the last sand ninja disappeared. It wouldn't be hard to trail him using the bloody trail he left, but for now it was more important to get the genin to safety and find out what happened to them. From what Hayate overheard, the sand ninjas already found them unconscious. The now armless sand ninja was still alive, his breathing shallow, but a pained expression still present on his face. With a sigh, Hayate flipped his katana into a reverse grip and rammed the blade through the skull of his now defeated enemy, ending his suffering by granting the peace of death. After that he wiped the blade on the clothes of his foe and sheathed the weapon. The wound on his arm stung, but he wasn't paying it much attention as he picked up Kiba and Hinata and Akamaru. Hayate-san. The swordsman was about to jump away when he heard someone approaching. Hiyashi Hyuga appeared, followed by two members of a medical team and a limping, bruised Neji, who had a scroll in his hand. Judging by the tight grip, it was important. Hiyashi Hyuga-sama, your daughter seems unharmed, cough, but I know nothing about what happened to her or her, cough, teammate. I see. Do you know anything about my younger daughter? I saw two members of your clan take her away before any harm came to her. She should be in your clan complex by now. Very good. Hiyashi didn't show his relief. He already showed enough emotion by revealing Neji the fateful choice his brother made years ago. Hayate, you and I are to help fend off the attackers. Members of the medical team and Neji can transport my daughter and Inuzuka Kiba to the shelters. They are the closest safe location. Very well. Hayate nodded and handed the genin over to the medics while Neji took Akamaru. He was in no shape to fight, thanks to the beating Naruto gave him, but he could keep up and his Byakugan could still warn them if the danger approached, so he followed the medics without any complaints after putting the scroll in his pouch. One of the sand ninjas I engaged escaped. He could still be near, but he is wounded. Hayate said once he and Hiyashi were the only people left. I will locate him. If he is wounded he should still be in the range of my Byakugan. Hiyashi said, and Hayate saw how the head of the Hyuga clan activated his bloodline. The combined forces of the sand and sound ninjas began their assault on the Hidden Leaf village. It seemed like the attack came out of nowhere, meeting only weak resistance if any at all. A swift strike, aimed to tear up the Konoha forces, pinned them down in the isolated pockets of resistance to eventually wipe out. Such an attack required speed and the combined armies moved towards the village center, but even as they got farther and farther, the number of Konoha nins did not increase. They also gave ground after a quick skirmish or retreated without even trying to fight. Something is not right, a sand ninja with a vertical scar across his left cheek muttered. You think too much. We knew we'd take them by surprise, they don't know what to think. A sand kunoichi landed next to him. Enjoy the massacre. There is no massacre. There is barely even any fighting, and have you noticed? There are no civilians in the streets. Well, maybe they are hiding. Civilians do that, you know. No, something is wrong. I feel it with my guts and they are never wrong. Or maybe you just don't have any guts. Shut your mouth. You know I never was a coward, but I also was never willing to lose my life in a pointless battle. Whatever. We have an order, so let's move. The kunoichi said as a wave of sound shinobi passed them even though their platoon was supposed to be behind them. Oh, what a smart sand shinobi, he indeed has good guts. Enko appeared for a moment from the shadow in one of the alleys. Too bad his guts will be all over the place, such a waste, such a waste. Strangely, Enko's expression was not saying that she considered it a waste. If anything, it seemed like she was looking forward to it, a strange smile crawling onto her face, a combination of cruelty and mischief. She slid back into the shadow, pressing a button on the small radio attached to her trenchcoat. They passed the second checkpoint. On the other side, Shikaku Nara nodded, accepting the report. The Hokage made his take charge one of the battalions of Konoha shinobi that would engage in the counterattack. The role of his unit was especially important, as it was his job to cut off the escape route for the enemy forces and complete the encirclement. If the enemy forces had passed Anko's location, that was the signal for him and his men to act. The plan was to move behind the enemy and wipe out their rearguard, cut off any communication and create disorder in the ranks, and then stand firm, preventing any of those daring enough to attack Konoha from not paying the price for either their arrogance or treachery. When that would be done, the main counter-attack would begin. Two large formations of Konoha shinobi would attack from two sides, their attack spearheaded by 4 squads of Anbu, to cut through the enemy ranks and cause even more chaos. If successful, this strategy would turn the entire enemy army into a mindless mass without any order and plan or any hope of escape. Proceed with the first part of our attack, Shikaku ordered. Try to capture one of their officers alive. Inoichi here would love to have a chat with him, dig around in his head and all that. You make me sound like some sort of sadist. I am not like Ibiki or Anko. Inoichi objected while his friend smirked. Relax, Inoichi. You know Shikaku values your input. It was a while since we three had a chance to work together. Choza replied. The large man looked impressive in his full battle gear. Just keep it up, Shikaku, and I will mention that to your wife. Please don't. I have enough of her nagging me as it is. Shikaku looked away. It was the sad truth. He loved his wife dearly, but she was also one of the few people he actually feared. Being married was so much trouble sometimes. Anyone else coming? We don't know. We were just put in charge of this group and told to lead them here, that is about it. Ino turned to Iruka, who was at the entrance to one of the shelters. A large group of civilians had just went inside. Sakura noticed that she, Ino, Lee and Choji were the only genin she knew that were present. She had no idea where everyone else was, but hoped they were not in danger. Fine, you did what you were told and that is what matters. Iruka nodded. Iruka-sensei, can you tell us about the situation? We know so little. Lee asked. Considering that he was barely able to move around, he wasn't exactly guarding the civilians, as he himself was guarded, but he was still a shinobi of the village, and that made others give him much more credit that they otherwise would. I cannot tell you anything, it is classified. Iruka replied after a moment. Classified? Like hell it is. You knew this would happen. Otherwise Kakashi would not have come supplied with extra kunai and shuriken for us to use. Ino objected. The same thought crossed Sakura's mind, but she didn't voice it. Relax, Ino. If the senior ninja knew, then things can't be that bad. It means there is a plan in motion. Choji replied. This was one of the few times others saw him not munching on some kind of snack. Hey, is that true, Iruka-sensei? Sakura asked. I won't confirm anything, but you won't deny either. Hey, enough for now, get inside. You are the shinobi of the village and duties come first. Maintain order inside and prevent anyone from leaving, by force if necessary. Iruka shook his head. His students were becoming harder and harder to keep in the dark. Eventually that would simply be impossible. All right, be careful, Iruka-sensei. The genin moved inside, walking slowly, allowing Lee to keep up. Others already knew that it was quite useless to tell the genin to take it easy. It was good enough that he wasn't trying to train in his condition. Iruka watched them disappear inside. They were growing quickly. That was the burden of a teacher, to watch his students grow up. It was a reason to feel pride, but sometimes Iruka felt a bit sad about it. He missed the innocent smiles on their faces. The job of a shinobi left so little room for innocence. But it never meant that they couldn't be happy, and Iruka wished them to find their way with all his heart, hoping that whatever role he played in their lives, it would aid them. He was their teacher after all and always would be. The arena was huge, but only now Tenten understood how large it actually was. The archer moved around quickly and showed that he knew the layout of the inside facilities. This allowed them to avoid most of the engagements with the enemy shinobi and saved them time. Only once a sound shinobi appeared in the corridor. He deflected a barrage of shuriken Tenten threw at him, but that only served as a distraction as her unlikely companion ran forward. The sound ninja released some sort of a fire jutsu, not too powerful, but it was hard to dodge in the narrow corridor. Tenten dropped down, feeling the heat as the fire attack passed over her. She looked up and saw the archer running upside down on the ceiling until he was over the sound ninja. A moment later he dropped down, slamming the opponent to the ground and raised his hand. Tenten watched with wide eyes as a white bone appeared from his palm and the next second it was thrust down into the sound ninja's neck and left there. The archer quickly stood up and as he got up he pulled a white bone arrow out of his own hand. Tenten was getting up as the arrow flew by, dropping another enemy nin who appeared from the other side of the corridor. He didn't expect anyone to be here and wanted to rest as he was wounded. But soon the deep cut on his shoulder was the least of his problems as the arrow hit him right beneath the heart. The sand ninja took a step back and slid down the wall, leaving a bloody trail behind. He was dead in a matter of moments. Get up, we must proceed. Yeah, sure. Tenten wasn't sure what to think. She never considered that those bone weapons came from his own body. A very weird ability and it looked painful, but he was clearly used to using it. This corridor should lead us inside the central building. What then? Tenten jumped over the already dead sound ninja and ran after the archer. The area didn't have much light, but the white bow on his back was easy to spot. The barrier is created by 4 ninjas, each in charge of a focusing point for the barrier, 4 in total. Maintaining it requires them to pour chakra into the jutsu at a specific and continuous rate, which also requires them to be stationary. You want to take out those ninjas keeping the barrier up. Unfortunately that is impossible. The jutsu is designed to keep them out of harm's way, by shielding them with the same barrier. A direct assault on them would be suicidal. Then what? I can't see a way to take down that barrier. It seems that it has no weaknesses from what you say. It is an impressive jutsu. The archer admitted. But no matter how impressive is the creation, it is just as weak as is its foundation. I have desire to solve riddles. Tenten frowned, turning a corner running after the archer. They are on a roof of a building. The jutsu cannot suspend them in mid-air. They will be forced to drop in order to relocate. You want to make the whole building collapse. While the Hokage is on the roof. A cage-level shinobi can hardly be killed by such thing. But it will allow others to come to his aid and will deprive Orochimaru of his advantage. The archer pulled out a pack of explosive notes and tossed them to Tenten. Blow it up. You will destroy the supporting structure on the ground floor. Right. Wait, what do you mean I will destroy it? What about you? The duo ran into a large hall just beneath building roof. To the side you could see a passage leading the cage observation balcony. I will be busy. The archer suddenly shot an arrow in the direction of the balcony, but it stopped in mid, grabbed by an invisible hand. Tenten saw the genjutsu being lifted and a figure materialize, holding the arrow in front of a mask hiding the face. Keeping him from stopping you. I thought I felt my skin crawl in a familiar way. The masked man said, dropping the arrow. You were always able to keep yourself unnoticed. How fitting of you to wear a mask, you always do, Kabuto. Kabuto. Tenten blinked. But that was the name of a genin that dropped out of the preliminary round, while this guy was dressed like an Anbu operative. Oh well, I guess I really don't need this silly thing anymore, now do I. Kabuto slowly took of the mask, letting it fall down to the ground and then discarded the Anbu cloak. Go. Tenten heard an order. She glanced to the side, where was a passage to the staircase, and dashed towards it. Kabuto went to intercept her, but stopped and leaned back, avoiding an arrow that flew by, hitting a wall on the opposite side of the room. You know about the difference between our levels. Kabuto calmly turned to the archer, who already had another arrow ready. You never were and never will be able to come even close to the abilities and potential of a real Kagaya. You were such a disappointing failure, and to think that we wasted so much effort on you. Kabuto smiled and readjusted his glasses. The archer didn't answer, just watched, and Kabuto shook his head. So silent. You know you won't be able to kill me. I don't need to kill you, just delay you. It is not like you, to cover someone's back, Toro. Kabuto shook his head and took a step forward, his hand glowing with chakra.